All right, looks like we're live. Hey, thanks everybody for being here. Looks like we got. All right, y'all. It's me working the technical controls on this side of things, so ain't no telling what's about to happen. Earth Vessel and Sunshine, Cashew. I'm not even going to try to pronounce that one, but thank you for being here. Jason Vance, Heckler family, my crooked little homestead, Lynn, Pimpin, Pippin Eyes. Almost said Pimpin Eyes. Okay, I can see how that could. Oh, we just happen to be here with Kentucky Sustainable Living along with two old crows. Who knows? I mean, they're right there. Oh, shoot, here they are on live with me, y'all. Um, tell everybody you know we're live because we're going to be covering some pretty cool stuff here today. I had to kind of run to get into the studio in time. Well, the studio in progress in time because something of a technical difficulty, but we're here. So everybody, if you would, hit that like button. Tell everybody. It basically tells whatever algorithm is that we're live. And I've been looking forward to this for a whole couple of reasons. I spent a little bit of time with both Jason and Shelli, and we're going to let you know what they got. They also have YouTube channels, and y'all all need to check them out. I mean, they're doing a new thing out there that Jason in particular is doing something that's honestly unheard of in the permaculture world, and that's called the chicken tractor on meth. Shelly, Shelly has her version of it, and she's doing a more traditional chicken tractor on steroids. But the biggest reason I wanted to talk to both of them, well, not only because they're my friends, but also because they have done some pretty astonishing stuff. When a lot of us go out there and we get a permaculture design certificate, I'd say 95% of the people I'm aware, maybe even higher, I'd say maybe even 98% of the people that get a lot of the training that we have out there, they usually take it and they stick it on the shelf. They never do anything with it. And that's a tragedy. That's a tragedy. And a travesty, really. But there are very, very, very few people out there that go out there and travel far and wide like both of them do to go acquire new information, things they may not know about or things they need to learn more about, or confirmation like before we were having a conversation before this whole thing even started with Jason, where he's actually come to a lot of conclusions on his own just through common sense. But honestly, at the end of the day, when you go to these classes out there, when you go to these gatherings, when you go to these meetings, take this information, go back to your place, and put it to work. And these two have done some astonishing stuff. In fact, we'll let them talk more into it, but in a nutshell, let me just kind of give you an overview. Um, I don't even know where to start because I'm so doggone excited about it. The two of them, I've had the benefit and the great pleasure of being with them at a number of events, as I stated earlier. And I'm just going to kind of stand back. And the reason why is because both of them jointly taught a class and I watched it online. And in all honesty, it's better than anything I ever did. And I really believe that. And these two really hit it so far out of the park, y'all. My smile was from ear to ear, and I want everybody out there to see it. But more importantly, the things you learn are less important than the things you do. And when you can take these things, take them back, it's and for me as a person who does a lot of teaching out there, it's just mind-boggling and astonishing to me to see what they've done. So let's kick it off with Shelly real quick. And why don't you tell everybody out there what give them the origin. Every superhero story has an origin. So why don't you superheroes just tell us your origin story on what y'all have done?
So, my husband Randy and I, we've been homesteading for I don't know, getting close to 2 years now. We bought our farm about 2 years ago, and before that, we had like less. It was probably 6/10 of an acre, and we raised chickens and pigs on that. But since buying our farm, we've just gotten more chickens and pigs. And some turkeys and stuff like that. But we actually haven't utilized all of our land, and hopefully we'll be able to do that at some point. But um, Rainey and I both still work full-time jobs, and we do this. We want to do this because we want to build something that's going to outlive us, that our children and grandchildren will be able to benefit from. And that's our main goal. But here lately, we've also had a goal of just trying to help other people do this and make sure that they realize that it doesn't matter if you don't have a farm. It doesn't matter if you don't have a lot of money. It doesn't matter if you don't have a lot of animals or whatever. You can still grow stuff. You can still become sustainable. And when I went to Self-Reliance Festival down in Camden, Tennessee back in June, that was the first time I had ever been to that. I think that might have been the first time you'd ever been to it, Billy. I don't know. But somebody was talking. I want to say it was Bear from Bear Independent, maybe. And people were asking about community and wanting to figure out how to do community. And he said somebody raised their hand and said that they didn't know anybody where they live or whatever. And he asked what state they lived in. And they told him, and he was like, who else lives in that state? And like 5 people raised their hand. And he's like, that's your community. But he made a point of saying that if you don't know who your neighbors are, then you don't have any interest in community. You can't come to these things crying about community, community, community if you don't even know the people who live around you. And at the very least, you need to know the people who live around you to know who the crazy ones are, right? So I'm not saying that I have good neighbors. I don't want them to be watching this and be like, Shelli thinks we're crazy. I don't think you're crazy. But when I came home from that, I started looking on just different places, Facebook, whatever, for like some Kentucky groups. And the group that Jason had started up popped up. And I was actually already a member of that group, but I had never really, like followed it or whatever. And I started following it. And I'll let him tell you about that group and how that goes. But I've met so many cool people through that group. And it's just like people that I'm like, this is it. This is the people who I kind of want to get to know and do life with. But, and also the fact that they're right here in Kentucky, it's not, I don't have to travel super far to go meet somebody or whatever. They're right here in Kentucky. But yeah, that's it. This is Jackson. Say hi, Jackson.
Hi there, Jackson. You're a superstar now.
What time is it?
But that's it. I mean, if there's anything else you want me to.
Well, that's a good origin. Jason, why don't you tell us about that group? And hey, y'all, if you're just tuning in right now, hit that thumbs up. It helps us out. It gets more people out there to hear what I think is a very, very, very important episode, not only about community, which is massive in this whole thing. And there's a bunch of people writing emails and stuff to me asking about community, not only about community, but also about going out there, getting the training you need, and then taking it home and training the community you've started. So Jason, let's start with you. And then we got to, at some point, get into this chicken tractor on meth. No, y'all, he's not feeding meth to his chickens just in case. And then
he's not.
No. But hey, before we get to you, Jason, though, somebody said something about me being down in the Florida Panhandle last night. I was at the Gulf Coast Homestead Meetup Friday and Saturday. I don't know who that was, but I guarantee it wasn't me. So, hopefully whoever was there that looked like me didn't commit any crimes, because I don't Yeah, that definitely wasn't me. But Jason, let's go ahead and kick it on over to you. Tell us about this group and how you got going in it.
Well, about 2 years ago, me and a couple guys that I knew in Kentucky were like, we need to start something. And I'd seen there's different groups forming. We didn't want to go to the far end of the spectrum, more military-wise, like a lot of people do. So we stuck ours of more of a sustainable living kind of thing. So we were like, how do we get more members? So we just started a Facebook group and did it that way for Kentucky people. And it just started growing. So we've got that aspect of it. And we wanted to, it's a lot of prepping, but, sustainability is about prepping also. So, and I've always said, you can stock a year's supply of food all you want to, but what are you going to do on day 366?
That's right.
You're done for. When you crack your first freeze dried food, you've started the time clock on your life. Is what you've done. If you can't resupply and sustain yourself, so we've started growing that group. We've got a smaller group within that group of members that we do some background checks on, just to make sure that they're people that we would want to hang out with and invite to our house, people that we'd want around our wives or our husbands and our children. So those members are the members that we have meetings and stuff with and training classes, just like we did the Food Force class. And then the big way that I found out about Shelli, Warren, and Geo, they live over in Yosemite, Kentucky, and they raise pigs. Warren said something to me. He said, I had a couple come over the other day, and they got a couple pigs from me, and they were talking something about YouTube or some kind of crap like that. They had a YouTube channel. And I was like, well, I need to find out who this is. So I did a little bit of digging and figured around. He told me, he said it was Two Old Crow or some kind of stuff like that. So I did my detective work, and I found Shelli, and I was like, hey, we need to talk. So that's kind of how it struck it up. And then I told Shelli, I was like, I want to start a YouTube channel. And I was like, I know nothing about it or anything. I was like, come down to the house and help me. So Shelli came down to the house. We did our first interview and that kind of stuff and struck it up from there. And I came down for the Swales workshop that you did at John's place at SOE. And then I was pretty well hooked after that. I was like, I've really got to do a YouTube channel, get the name of this out some more. And then I came down to Self-Reliance, the last one that they had. And then I came to your guild class that you did the day before. And I saw it and I'm like, this is awesome. And I'd already put fruit trees in, mulched and cardboarded. And then I told Shelli, I was like, we need to do a Food Force class. And then that's kind of history from there.
Man, I got to tell you, folks, if you haven't seen it yet, you can see it both of their channels. I was honestly floored, and this is what I love so much about it, is that it's not only the fusion of community on one hand, and then on the other training, and then how does that saying go? Watch one, do one, teach one, and that's exactly what you've done there. So how did you work that out? And as far as I'm sitting here watching this, and I'm like, good night. It looks like the two of y'all have worked together forever and a day doing this class. It was seamless. You were feeding off of each other, and it was like you two had prepared. So for the people out there that are thinking, okay, I got this little bit of knowledge, or I gained this and I need to teach it, why don't you give us a background of how y'all coordinated an event like that? And did you practice? Because it looked like no.
We
Okay.
did a wing on everything. Shelli took your stuff that you gave us at the guild class and added a little bit more to it and did a picture or two in there. And she sent it to me, and I looked at it and I was like, that is awesome. Let's go with it. We talked for maybe she guilted me into cooking my homemade bacon for her that morning. She was like, I'll bring biscuits if you'll make bacon. I was like, wow, thanks for making me feel guilty. So I was cooking bacon, and we kind of went over it a little bit, but honestly, a lot of that was just wing the whole time. So
wow, that was fantastic. Yeah, I will criticize one thing in that video is that y'all are over there eating Randy's pork belly candy. I didn't get none of it. I mean, hey y'all, if you haven't had, if you go to a festival, and Shelli and Randy are going to be there, you want to get a hold of Randy. Man, I knew I wanted to hug that guy. I almost kissed him too when we were at the Back to the Land thing, and I knew I wasn't getting any pork belly candy. Randy went over there, got me a little bowl. Man, I was in the middle of a York peppermint patty commercial, y'all. So if for no other reason, next time you find out they're at a festival, you're gonna want to go because the food's on point. So going back to your guild class. Okay, so you two linked up and said, hey, let's do this class. Now, clearly through YouTube and through a video, I can only get so much, but how did it go? Do you feel like pigs on roller skates, or did you feel like you kind of, because it looked to me, y'all looked like everything was well polished. What went right? What went wrong for the people out there that might be thinking about doing it? Shelli?
Well, I was very pleased with how the classroom went. We had I don't know, probably around 15 people there. And there was actually a woman that was there that doesn't live far from me that brought her 3 or 4 kids. I can't remember, Jason. She had like
Four. She had 4 kids.
And Billy, I'm just gonna tell you straight up, like these are the kind of kids. They're like that kid at R&L Homestead. Like they were totally. First of all, they were like the most polite kids I've ever seen, and then they were anything that you wanted them to do. I mean, the littlest one, I think she might have been 5 or whatever. She's going around plugging garlic in the ground everywhere, like any place she can find a place to stick garlic. He's gonna have garlic all over that thing. But we had about 15 people that were there, and they were asking like all the right questions. They were, some of them, you could tell that there were like degrees of experience, I guess. And some of them were absolutely brand new. And some of them, you know, were, I don't know, where me and, you know, Jason are at or whatever. And I was impressed with the crowd that we had. And they got in there and they did it. And they were talking about how they wanted to take it back to and do what they were doing at their house. And we wanted to make sure that they understood that, I mean, because like Jason set up at his house, you know, like he said, he had like 15 trees out there or whatever. And that part was already down. We were going to add blueberry bushes and all that kind of thing. But I wanted them to understand that all it takes is one tree, you know, one tree, and put your stuff around it and just start building your food forest. It doesn't have to be that you got to go out and buy a buttload of trees. You don't have to buy, you know, all kinds of, you know, your complementary plants or whatever. You don't, it just takes one tree, you know? And I want people to grasp that it's not, they come to this class and they see all of that. And, you know, it was kind of hard to explain that what we were building was a food forest, but then that guild is just one little component of that food forest, you know, and it's many guilds that build the food forest. So
That's what I thought.
I feel like I kind of struggled getting that across, but I'm just
No. I thought you did a masterful job, both of you together, in describing, because that's something I'm definitely going to take away from your class. And folks, if you haven't seen it, you definitely want to see that class, because what they did a masterful job of explaining is that really a food forest or orchard really is just a combination of guilds. If you can, and you did a great job of breaking it down. And then also, y'all did a real good job of making the distinction between an orchard and a food forest. And also considering what you're doing there, Jason, how do you look at that in terms of a tactical, maybe not a tactical environment. Let's not maybe call it that for those that might be standoffish from a word like that. But let's say the difference between an orchard and a food forest, and which one did you select and why? And would you tell the people out there the differences between
the orchard is pretty much more straight lines and monocrop. Anybody can be driving by and see, you know, straight line trees and smaller trees, and they're like, hey, that's probably an orchard where I can get some food. The food forest, I came in and stuck some flags in at random increments. Came in with my tractor, popped a few little shallow holes in, and started putting trees. There's no rhyme or reason. And really, once it grows in and matures, it's going to look like somebody just hadn't mowed the yard and kept the mulch up. Is really what it'll look like. Nobody's going to be like, oh, hey, there's 15 fruit trees and 20 blueberry bushes down there, and oh my gosh, there's, you know, 200 strawberry plugs sitting down there that I could eat. It looks more of like just an overgrown area in the yard, so that somebody hadn't come in and weeded in.
After I want to ask both of you this. After having taught this class, do you feel like you have an even better understanding of how these things operate together, Jason?
I think so. And to go along with what Shelli was saying about teaching the class, these people that came down, I think they left with a lot of knowledge of what we told them. We planted, I think it was eight or nine blueberry plants, 4 more trees, 200 strawberry plugs, 2 bags of your comfrey, probably close to 5 pounds of garlic, and then 60 some daffodil bulbs. And we planted all that, put probably 7 yards of wood chips down in about 2.5 hours.
Wow, many hands make
That-
light work.
That was how fast and how into it the people were that came to the class.
That's what I'm talking about. Shelli, do you feel like, I mean, I know you're a quick study anyway. Do you feel like you have a better understanding, having put your hands on this thing and taught the class? Do you feel like you have a better understanding about all of this?
Absolutely. I mean, which my background is in education anyway. And so there were a couple things. I mean, just because I had never done anything like this before. And, you know, like, of course, I've watched every one of your videos and I've gone through and done probably about 3/4 of Nicholas Burtner. Am I saying that right? His
That's
School
right.
of Permaculture.
Mhm.
And I feel like I have a good grasp of that. But I don't feel like I don't feel like I could go and like tell somebody how to do, how to do their own place or whatever. I feel like I probably need more experience. And I don't really know that that's my end goal anyway. But once we got out there and started talking about it, I was a little bit nervous to begin with. And there's even a couple things when I went back and looked, I was like, oh, I screwed that up or whatever. I didn't say that right. But at the end of the day, like we taught people how to put food in the ground. I mean, I guess it was a little bit intimidating, and that's okay, because even if they, I'm always the person that's like, you got to teach it correctly the first time, because it takes 3 to 5 times of reteaching it before you unlearn what you learned incorrectly or whatever. So I don't like to do that. But at the end of the day, we taught people how to put food in the ground. It's like that was our goal. Our goal is not, to be permaculture specialist or whatever. Our goal is to teach people to put food in the ground. And that's, we did that. And I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm excited about that.
I'm excited. And folks, if you haven't checked them out, you want to check out both channels. They're doing astonishing and extraordinary things. And as I guess an educator myself, when you see people take whatever information you may have provided and then they take and put their own twist on it and do it, maybe they don't do the chicken tractor on steroids. Maybe they do the chicken tractor on meth. maybe, maybe they twist the chicken tractor on steroids because their circumstances require it, like Shelli did. I can't begin to tell y'all what a joy it is to see what y'all have done so far and how this is going. And it's even the better part where, I can't tell you how many times I was going to give up teaching butchery because of all the people who said, yeah, I want to learn this. And then, you got a class and then they never show up, probably because I was doing classes for free. And then all of a sudden over the last couple of years, we're getting people sending me videos of them doing their own butchery class. And then now you guys are over here you're going out there, you're driving wherever. I mean, Jason, you just got back from doing just another class too.
Yeah.
And you're putting all this stuff together just based on the conversation. It was I'm not trying to give any inside baseball, y'all, but we had a conversation beforehand, and Jason had texted me earlier, and based on what he texted me, I was like, man, this guy's figured this out himself. I want to talk to Will, and we'll talk after this. But I was like, he figured this out himself. It's a story altogether, but a book, a movie, a video, anything. There was a guy with a whole lot of sense that once wrote that a book is less important for what it says than for what it makes you think. And I think it's the same thing with this training, is that it's not. So maybe my method doesn't work for you, because really my method is really a combination of, it's an amalgamation of maybe 12 different people if I were to add them all up. Do y'all feel like you're kind of coming into what you think? I mean, you clearly live in a different zone than I do. Not much different, but it's different. And by the way, folks, if you're thinking about doing this, don't think you have to have everything in the guild before you commence the plant.
Right.
Let's say you was to put nothing. Let's say all you could get your hands on right now is your nitrogen fixing trees or shrubs. Well, like Jason said, you went out there, put flags in. Okay, I know that flag's going to be a tree, so I'll put that in when I get a chance. But here's what I can put in. Or let's say you're in a position to where I know I'm going to put a food forest out here, but you know what? This ground's so messed up that I don't want to risk planting anything. So I'm going to put down a cover crop. Well, there's good ways to get that. You can put that down until you can get around to it. Or if you have, let's maybe 3 things, put those 3 things in, but draw it out on paper. Let me ask y'all, Jason, did y'all have a plan as far as, well, I'll tell you what, I know you had a plan, but why don't you tell me how it unfolded? I mean, how did y'all look at putting things together, and were you missing a bunch of stuff or wishing you had more? What kind of plan did y'all put together?
Well, Shelli and I started talking about it at Self-Reliance Festival, the last one that they had. And she was like, I found a website, a guy, I think they're in Arkansas maybe. And she was like, he's got good prices on everything. And I was like, all right. And I said, get everything. I said, here, I took a picture of what you had drawn on the whiteboard at Self-Reliance. I gave it to her. I said, this is some of the stuff we want to plant. And she's like, all right, I'll get it ordered. So I gave her kind of what quantities that I wanted for my part. Came down to it, the guy, like a week before, he was like, oh yeah, by the way, we ran out of this and this other stuff's not going to ship until like the first of the year. And I'm like, crap. So I got on the phone and started calling, and I actually found blueberry plants. We found 3-year-old blueberry plants for $16 a piece.
Wow.
He's 15 minutes from me. And I was like, okay, cool. I was like, you're my blueberry guy then. I found strawberry plugs, a guy that was about 45 minutes away, and he was half price of what we were going to pay. So I told Shelli, I was like, cancel the stinking order. I'm going to buy it from these local guys. I'm like, we're preaching Kentucky stuff. Let's not send our money to out of state. Let's run up there. So I was making mad dashes. I was calling Shelli. I was like, how many blueberry plants you want? How many strawberry plugs do you want? They're only like 50 cents a plug. And she goes, holy crap. She was like, that's cheap. So I ran and I think I ended up buying 400 strawberry plugs from the guy. And he was like, if nobody buys them, I'm just going to trash them. And I was like, holy cow. But I think he had probably put out 10,000 strawberry plugs already for his place that he does a pick your own berry kind of place.
Well, so of the 7 layers of a forest, of the 7 layers of the forest, how much of it do you think you got in? For those that don't know, there's an overstory, there's an understory. Well, you know what? Let me stand back. Do y'all remember what they are?
You've got the overstory, the understory. You've got your bushes, your vines, your ground cover, and your fungal. Did I miss any?
You missed 2 of them, but that's all right. No. You know, hey, this is. I didn't mean to put you on the spot. Actually, I did. But,
well, Shelli just said.
I didn't answer. I'm just gonna sit here.
Yeah.
No, you got them for the most part, but hey, what we try to do is cover all 7 layers of a forest: the overstory, the understory, the shrub, the vine, the ground cover, the roots. And I'm missing one, right? Oh, the herbaceous layer. Ha! Remembered after all.
Oh, we got those too, Jason.
Yeah, we did. We've got a ton of herbs.
There you go. Well, hey, for you Hooter bandits out there, the meaning of the kind you eat. So, hey,
we keep the other herbs with the chickens.
And of course, number 8, like Jason was talking about, the mycelial layer. Wow. So, I mean, I'm floored that y'all are able to do it. You know what's beautiful about this is you two did what most people never do, and that's combine community with permaculture. Well, people do that in their own way, but traditionally from the kind of, how do I say this without, oh my goodness, how do I say this without offending the people on the far left? But the problem is with permaculture, and I'm just going to say it, I don't care who's offended. I can't even believe I paused to even worry about who's offended. The problem with permaculture is that there's a lot of people out there saying, if you don't do this, this, and this, and this, you're not permaculture. You're not this. You're not that. Well, those of us from the Liberty standpoint, and I know the 2 of you are there, we don't necessarily have to look at things like that. And frankly, there's a lot of people from the right side of the spectrum that dismiss and have historically dismissed permaculture because they see it as a, they run into a couple of weirdo lefties that just want to eat kale for 3 meals a day, and they come down like a ton of bricks on us. Danny at Deep South Homestead is probably one of the formidable permaculture designers out there, and he doesn't even like to use the word because of that very same reason. But honestly, to see y'all do this and to see y'all do it to the extent that you have and with, I mean, incredible instruction and did it in many ways better than I ever did is just a joy. I don't even know where to, okay. So let me quit going on about that. Let me ask you what's going to happen next. Okay. So you got in what you did. Shelli, let me ask you, you put in what you did. What's the next step? Because obviously this thing being a food force for a little while is going to require some maintenance. Do you have to come back later? And what does that look like to you?
Well, we've got more blueberry plants that are coming in November, so those are going to have to be put in. I would really like for Jason, and I think he's going to, I would really like for Jason to like weekly go out and take a picture, you know, like of this thing growing, so we can put a collage together or whatever and put it on the Kentucky Sustainable Living YouTube channel. We've already, I mean, just because we figured out that we actually teach pretty good together, we've been talking about other classes that we want to do. And as far as, you know, I've been kind of leery about it. When we first started our channel, I've been kind of leery about putting permaculture like in the description of my stuff or whatever, only because like I feel like I'm not experienced enough or whatever. And then I actually just got to the point where I'm just like, screw it, I don't care, because my goal, Jason's goal, is to teach people to be sustainable, to teach people, you know, how to put food in the ground, how to provide for themselves. And if permaculture is the vehicle that we use to do that, then so be it. And if we screw it up, I don't really care. I mean, we're still growing food. Like, it doesn't make any difference to me if you think that I called a layer the wrong thing, or I didn't, you know, put the right tree here, or I didn't put the right thing with it, because I'm going to learn more by screwing up than I am by doing it right. You know, I mean, you always learn more by making mistakes. So it's okay. And if I make a mistake, I'm going to come back and say, hey, I made this mistake. Don't do this or whatever, because I screwed this up. But it's not, we just, going forward, especially with Kentucky Sustainable Living, there's so many people. And so let me just put a plug in there. If you're in Kentucky, you need to get in this group. Like, I'm not even playing. There are so many people in this group that have so many different things that their expertises that they're good at. And I'm talking like medical stuff, ham radio stuff, defense stuff, just anything. Jason can tell you, the first time I talked to him on the phone, he rattled off like 20 different things of people, you know, stuff that they know and all that kind of thing. And it's just a wealth of knowledge that blows my mind. And if you are, you know, like if you feel like you're in some place in Kentucky that you're like remote and alone, I promise you're not. There's people around you. He's got the whole state covered. There's 7 different groups in the state of Kentucky, and they all have meetings. They all have get-togethers. They have a statewide thing at Jason's house a couple times a year. You can go to any of the things anywhere. Everybody communicates. It's actually pretty amazing what he's built. So you need to be checking it out. If you're in Kentucky, hit him up.
Well, speaking of hitting up, I think that's beautifully stated, Shelli. Well, Life Done Free is in the house. My man Tag, that's another YouTube channel.
Hey, Tag.
Also, y'all, let me just ask you, Jason. Speaking of Tag, over on freesteading.com, have y'all been able to use that, get that as a resource? Have you tried reaching out there?
Yeah,
because I mean, considering a lot of the you were saying you started out on Facebook, and the reason why I'm encouraging everybody I know to maybe consider jettisoning or getting out of that platform. Well, I guess I don't need to tell this crowd all the reasons why you ought to be doing that. Have you tried to overlay any of this at freesteading.com?
I have. I've got, I'm on freesteading.com in the Kentucky group and a few others. I've talked to Tag. I put in to be one of the community leaders. I think it's what they're calling that. And Tag was like, man, I'm so overwhelmed with stuff right now. He said, I get just a little bitty smidge of doing that stuff. But yeah, we picked up a few people there. I didn't want to go in and start evangelizing about the group on, on another platform. I just didn't want to do that. But I'm on there, and it's under Kentucky Sustainable Living. So if anybody feels free to reach out to me there, that would be fine. But we are on there.
Awesome. So, Jason, I want to get into this other part. I know we marketed, or at least we set this thing up talking about Food Forest, which we can absolutely circle back to. But one of the biggest questions I get, whether it's through my podcast or whether through YouTube, one of the biggest questions is community, how to start one, who to look for, are there some bad apples, and how do you get rid of them? How do you cultivate classes? I mean, you're a person that's done this successfully, along with Tag and my friend Bobby Spags over there. What's your method for going about this and putting it together? What made you feel, I guess you're the one that started all this, so what made you feel like, let's start with why you felt the need to put it together and how you maintain a group like that.
Well, I saw the climate that we were in, and I saw the road it was going down. And it's like, you're going to need people close to you in times like this to be supportive. Even if that's a person that's still in the same state, an hour away, something like that from you, you need people that are as local as you can get with you. So, and I talked to some people at Self-Reliance. I'm like, start finding the people that are in your state. I'm like, it costs nothing to start a Facebook page or get on Freesteading. Say, hey, if you're in Tennessee, get on the Tennessee group and be like, hey, I'm in Davidson County. Lord help you if you're in Davidson County though. But right. Say I'm in Sumner County, Tennessee. I'd like to meet up with some people. Or start the Facebook page, Tennessee Sustainable Living, and just market it. Find a few people and just start getting on there. Invite some friends and stuff like that, and it will eventually grow. I put it in a bunch of different places on some other Facebook groups. I got permission from the administrators. I'm like, hey, we're starting a group. Can I post a link to it? And most of them were pretty cool about it. They're like, yeah, sure. We've gotten stuff from off-grid websites or off-grid Facebook groups. A lot of people that are off-grid are in the sustainability movement. So it just, once you get enough people, it kind of feeds itself. We were, getting a few members here and there every week. And now I think today I've approved over 10 people just today on the Facebook group. So, I mean, it's growing. There's almost 900 people in there now.
Wow.
So in the Facebook group.
Wow.
And like Shelli said, we've got a lot of people might feel isolated. I'm way out in the boonies in Kentucky, and there's nobody around for 100 miles. I can probably guarantee we've got members in the group within 30 to 40 miles of you, no matter where you are in Kentucky, because we go from Pikeville to Paducah to northern Kentucky to the Tennessee border and all through Kentucky.
Wow. Have you had any, well, Shelli, let me go to you for a second. Being a part of a group like that, did you have any concerns? I mean, clearly Jason started it, but where you and Randy are coming from, did you have any concerns about a group like that? Did you? And I want to stick on this for a little bit because it's so many, you guys can answer tons of emails that I always get regarding this thing. And frankly, I'm not an expert on such things, at least certainly not groups. Did you have any concerns about joining that?
Well, I laugh about it because I had joined this group probably a year ago, and like I said, I didn't follow it much or whatever. And then it just so happened that it popped up one day that on this page, a couple guys, he talked about them, Warren and Gio, they were selling breeder pigs. And so I reached out to them, and the price they had on them was really good. I reached out to them, and they were like, oh yeah. And so we're chatting through Messenger, Facebook Messenger. And at some point I was asking what kind they were and where they were located and all that kind of stuff. And at some point he asked me if I was vetted. And I was like, no, or I don't think so. I don't know what you're talking about. I mean, I know what being vetted is, but I didn't, I'm like, I haven't gone through anything or
You should
whatever.
have responded back. Look, man, I'm not into that freaky stuff.
And I told Randy, I said, this dude just asked me if I was vetted, and I don't even know what that means or whatever. And so I asked him, I said, so does that mean I don't get the price if I'm not vetted? And he was like, no, go ahead and come out. We'll take care of it. So we go out there and pick them up. And then, Jason said something about them contacting him. I get back home. I think I picked them up on a Saturday. Sunday night, like I'm getting ready to go to bed, and I'm laying there, and a message comes through on my phone, and it's Jason, and he was like, hey, I just listened to a video that you did with Billy from Permapasture Farm. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't know who he was. And I didn't know who Jason was. And he said, so he just starts talking to me, and how do you know him, and all this kind of stuff. And finally I was like, are you that guy from Kentucky Sustainable Living? And he was like, yeah. And he didn't even, I said, well, my husband and I just went through, we filled out all the stuff to get vetted. And Randy and I have different names. Like those aren't our nicknames. And he hadn't made the connection that we were who we, the application that he had just got. And the whole thing, when I was going through it, I was like, I don't know if I want to be connected with these people. I don't know who these people are. And I don't know, because I don't know. I guess because maybe I had heard you say so many times about you getting hooked up with people that ended up being a bad idea and that kind of thing. And so now I'm kind of leery about stuff like that. But after talking to Jason, I was like, I don't think this is a bad thing. I think this is going to be a good idea. And it's been a fantastic idea.
To see me.
Do what?
You tear your truck up just so you can spend a day with me.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Now she's the one doing the vetting. No, I think that's awesome. I mean, well, Shelli, just let me be a little more clear about that, because in the past I probably haven't been. I was talking about communities that I was part of. The only ones that have been a dismal failure have been the ones that I started with my family.
Right.
The other ones, we were linked up with Hacks for the Homesteader and some others. Everybody got along great. It's just when we start throwing some of my DNA into the mix, then all of a sudden, the crazy comes out. So just because they share the last name doesn't mean they're good for you. So
right.
I'm sure a lot of folks know that. So Jason, in this group, I mean, it helps, I guess, if there's some vetting that's going on. But have you had to deal with any rough customers or some old boys that just want to start some trouble, or the guy who, in the groups that I was always part of, not my groups necessarily, but within these things, for me, it was more of the preparedness circles and stuff at that time. There was always going to be some lunatic dude out there that shows up to the campouts. How do you deal, or have you had to deal with any of that issue?
We've had to deal with a few. Most of the time, the guys don't get through the vetting process. So typically we do. We've got a form that you fill out. It's an online form. There's no super secret, information that you're going to put on there. If you're one of these people that puts what you're eating for dinner on Facebook every night, I can find out most of the information that you're going to put on the form. So. And then we run a background check, just a simple background check to look for any kind of felony stuff like that. And like I said, these people are coming to our houses. They're interacting with our families. So you don't want some kooky dude, coming through there. So if they pass that, they usually talk to one to two of the other members before they're allowed in the group. And if they don't pass the smell test on that, you're just not allowed in the group. If I talk to them and I'm like, they said something a little weird, I'll pass them off to somebody else. And if that person comes back and says, hey, something smelled a little bit weird, that's, you got two witnesses, and that's good enough for me. So, wow. And it's just like, no, we're not going to do this. And we've had a few slip through the cracks, and they're dealt with pretty quick. They can have a chance or two, and it's like, hey, don't do this anymore if it's something small. And if they keep on doing it, it's like, sorry, dude, you're gone. So I just don't want to put up with it.
How do you cultivate the relationships like within this group? Okay, for example, like Tag and some of the groups that they're involved with up there, they go to each other's place and they'll have, let's say, like, okay, like for example, the three of us here, let's pretend I live in Kentucky. Okay, this weekend we're all going to go to Shelli's house and we're going to knock out a project, Amish style. Or week after that, we'll go hit Jason's, or maybe it's a couple of weeks later, and then maybe we go hit mine, and then we go back to Shelli's because she served a bunch of Randy's pork belly candy, and then and then here we are, and then we go back to Shelli's the following week because Randy had more pork belly candy. Point being, what do y'all do to cultivate the relationships in this group? Are there a lot of them that are more comfortable doing it virtually, or do y'all have get-togethers and whatnot?
I've had a couple of the members come down to my house. I put it out on our chat that we use. It's like, hey, I'm putting in a rain catchment system. Does anybody want to come down and learn how to do it and help me? So I had a couple guys come down and do that. And we just sat around. We worked all day. We got the rain catchment stuff done and just had a good time. It wasn't, we weren't pushing. We were just working at a moderate pace, talking to each other, having a good time. And doing stuff like that. Several of the guys have went to other people's farms a couple Saturdays and helped them put up fence. And that was all organic. One of the guys was like, hey, we're trying to get fence in. We've got a grant from the government to get these fences in. We have to have them in by a certain date. And a couple of the guys stepped up and said, hey, we will be over there next weekend to help you put fence up. So they just did it out of the kindness of their hearts to do that. I told last Saturday when Shelli and Randy were here, they were talking about getting up perimeter fence. And I told her, she's like, it's just a pain in the butt putting in H braces and everything else. And I told her, I said, let me know a weekend that Randy's off. I will bring my tractor up there. And I said, we'll at least get all the H braces in and get some of it stretched. So she was like, okay. So whenever Randy gets another weekend off, as long as it's decent weather, we're going to go up and put some fence up at her house.
Wow. That's exactly the kind of, so for all the people out there, we're almost certainly going to have many people watch this after we broadcast it. But folks, all the people out there that are hitting me up about finding people, I live in the middle of nowhere, or I'm new to this community. This is how you do it. I mean, and they're doing it.
Yep.
Now you're going to have some of these whack job communities like those ones in Kansas, where it was like every cooperative community I ever came across were all wife swappers. And I'm like,
No.
I mean, these people were freaks. I mean, they were absolutely wife swapping in the whole 9 yards. And I'm like, hold on, is this what this cooperative living is all about?
Is that what Grumpy was doing?
Stop playing this one. So that was my background in this whole thing at first. And I was like, okay, well, that's what this is all about.
No.
I guess I'm out.
That's not what we do at KSL.
No. I mean, it is Kentucky, but I'm sure y'all ain't doing anything.
Oh, come on now.
Cousins.
We got the chicken tractor on meth, but we ain't swapping no wives.
Y'all just swap tractors. That's all.
I'll tell you what, Billy, his chicken tractor on meth is putting out just as much compost as yours is.
Awesome.
I was blown away when I went over there, and he had like this huge pile of compost ready to go out into that food forest. And like there was 3 more piles and then a pile in the ring that's in his chicken run. It looks great. It's dark and rich looking, and he's doing a great job with it.
Well, I know one thing, among them chickens, there's a whole lot of wife swapping going on. So yeah, you don't want to see a rooster getting busy, y'all, because you talk about cold-blooded the way that all goes down. But anyway,
it's violent, man. It's just violent.
Yes, it is. Hey, Jason, why don't you tell us? I want both of y'all to cover that too, and maybe the origin of how that began. As far as like I said, y'all, this is an extraordinary broadcast because this is the only chicken tractor on meth on planet Earth that I'm aware of. I love how you made that distinction, and you were having problems for a while there. It's kind of hard for me to help diagnose it being so far away. Did you get all that worked out, and what's it look like?
Yeah, I started it when I got back, I started watching your videos, and I'm like, I want to cut down the feed cost. And then I'm like, compost would be great. I got some of that crappy compost like you got this year that you used in some of your raised beds, and some of it just didn't do. And I'm like, if I can cut my feed cost and produce compost, it's a win-win. So I started doing it. We had a few birds that started looking sick, and I lost a couple. And I was like, what's going on? I had cut their feed too far back. And I'll admit it. I mean, I cut the feed too far back because I thought they were getting enough protein out of the piles. But so I lost a few birds. Some of them didn't look real good. So after I upped their feed, everything started coming along. I didn't let them adjust, give them a long enough time to adjust. But now I'm back down to a lot less feed, and they are flat tearing those piles up. Today, I've got those piles usually wind up being 3 to 3.5 foot tall or better. And I could go out there right now. I didn't rake it up today because it rained, but that pile is probably only 8 inches tall. They've knocked it down that far and went through it.
Wow.
So, and I named it the Chicken Tractor on Meth just because I was like, it'll be funny. I asked Shelli about it, and she goes, that would be hilarious. Do it. And you kind of got to have a little tagline about some stuff. Just like one of the last videos I did when we AI'd the cows. We were doing artificial insemination, but I put the title as AI's coming to the farm. And most people are like, holy crap, he's getting artificial intelligence at his farm. We got to click on this and see. And it's like, it's not what you're thinking. So.
Wow, Chicken Tractor on Meth. Well, it is Kentucky, so I understand the meth reference.
Yeah.
Sorry, y'all. I'm going to keep busting on y'all because I'm in North Carolina. But I do love Kentucky. There's a lot of things in Kentucky I miss, like them. A lot of real good food in Louisville.
Yeah.
And in some of those other places around there. But Shelli, you also did your version of a Chicken Tractor on steroids too. You changed quite a number of things too, as I understand it. How did all that work out for you?
I'm not producing as much compost as Jason is, but it's because Jason is diligent about getting out there and doing it like every day or whatever, raking it back up and stuff. I'm probably putting out about half what he puts out just because some days I come home and I'm tired and I don't go out there. I make sure everybody's fed and all that. But it's working, and we've actually filled up all of our raised beds with compost that we made. And I'm hoping to get more made to take down to our food forest and start putting that down there. So it's working out well.
Wow. So, from where y'all started with all this, I want to kind of come full circle now that we're coming to the end of this. It's astonishing to me because most people, and for those that came in late, if you haven't heard it already, and from my judgment, 90, maybe, I don't know that anybody's ever figured it out, but in most of the training, whether it's butchery classes, whether it's a class on Chicken Tractor on steroids, whether it's composting, whether it's all these things, probably 98% of the people that do these classes never do anything with them. And you're looking at two people right here, y'all, really all three of us, that have gone and got this knowledge and have brought it home and made our own versions of it, which is exactly what we ought to be doing. If you're late getting in here, y'all have got to check out what they did with their class of teaching a guild. And that's exactly what I'm hoping happens because, Jason, for crying out loud, you started this Kentucky sustainable thing. Now, let's kind of think this out a little bit. What would this country look like if, for example, y'all put a class together, 15 people you trained. Let's say just one of them people went out of there and started their own class, and y'all gave your blessing and gave your references, your class materials and stuff, and then we all kept simultaneously teaching and evangelizing all this information that we're all collectively learning from one another. Good night. Would we even have a problem? Would anybody be worried about a nitrogen shortage? Would anybody really be all that concerned about a potash shortage? Would anybody be concerned about any of these agricultural shortages that the world is tripping right now? If we were to seed these ideas and have them expand onto other people And honestly, I think we're getting to a stage in America where people are going to have to do this. Do you
Yeah.
disagree, Jason? I mean, or what do you
I,
hope to do with all this?
I agree with you. I would like to do it where we're not relying on any kind of commercial fertilizers and inputs and stuff like that. And I think with the permaculture model, you're not at the mercy of big ag. You can do everything, and just like you said, there's a bunch of waste streams on the farm, so why not use those? And the problem is a solution kind of thing, like you've always said. I would love to get to where we don't use any kind of commercial fertilizers or anything like that. And I am a lot better at raising meat than I am raising vegetables and stuff, but I'm learning about the vegetables and fruits and everything. But I would like to stay away from any of the commercial stuff as much as I could. That's why I've been looking into the permaculture and getting in and diving headfirst into it.
Wow, Shelly, somebody says here, I saw the guild class. Thank you. Good information. Now, everybody tells Shelly and Jason out there that they need to be teaching. In fact, maybe next time we do this, I'll tell them I'm going to teach the class and these two show up because they did a better job of it.
People would be a whole lot let down, I think.
No, I don't think so. Y'all hit this thing. Maybe we could do a trifecta one time. Maybe get up there to Kentucky for another class or something, or somewhere or another. Because honestly, the cool thing about watching you two teach together is that y'all were hitting this thing from two different perspectives, but they overlaid perfectly. Where let's say Jason might have, he had an idea about something Shelly was saying, and then as it made sense, he would come in, or Shelly would do the same where Jason may have needed, and y'all were providing different things, and y'all were saying things that honestly I was wishing that I had remembered to say, because I speak more extemporaneously in my teaching style where I don't necessarily have notes and stuff like that. And that works for me. It's just the way my brain works. But honestly, seeing the way you two work together it'd be a travesty if y'all didn't team up again to do more work. But Shelly, do you feel like I guess what I want to ask you is, what are your thoughts on trying to evangelize this stuff, and what do you hope happens? I mean, are you hoping this information gets legs? Do you feel like you want to have a role in it?
What what I'm hoping, yes, I hope it does get legs. And what I'm hoping is that people look at Randy and I, or Jason and Whitney, and be like, they are two people that are doing this. They don't have a ton of interns that work for them or whatever. They are two people working full-time jobs that are providing for themselves, and I can do this too. That's what I'm hoping. I don't want people to just get, when Randy and I first started this, like reaching out to William and having him come to our farm was the best thing that we could have ever done. When we first got here, like I knew that this was what I wanted, but I was so overwhelmed with where to start that I just kind of, like you get like analysis paralysis and you don't know where to begin or where to go. I don't want people to do that. I mean, just put something in the ground. Like that's all you got to do. It's not hard. It's not, it is work. I'm not gonna lie to you. Homesteading is not easy. It's work, and you got to put work into it. But the days that I'm out working on my farm, I get the best sleep that night. It's just like something that I'm doing for myself, and it's hard work, but I love it, and I love working with the land. I love sticking my hands in the dirt. I love it. And I want people to understand that this is doable, and you don't have to have all the land, and you don't have to have all the money. It's still doable. And if you watch either one of our channels along with your channel, because you and Michelle and William, that's mainly what yours is. I mean, people just need to understand they don't have to have 15 kids or all whatever. Some big jobs you do have to have some help, but it's doable, y'all. It so is.
I'm glad you pointed that out, Shelly, is that, when I got into this journey too, like everybody else, we were working full-time jobs too. When I first got into it years ago, I mean, we'd worked full-time jobs forever and a day, and you don't necessarily make the transition all in one day. You don't.
Right.
I mean, as somebody who's made that transition into full-time farming, and education and some of the other things that we do, You're right. We started out working a 9 to 5 like everybody else does, but because, and I'm not kidding when I say permaculture is my passion, then we just learned to take that passion and find a way to be able to do that full time and to make a legit career out of it and then to advance things because it's a lot easier because both of y'all have done some serious advancing on just a chicken tractor on steroids and did your own versions of it. But finding all these different ways in which to go about it while you're, like you said, you got to go out there, you got to make that bread. And then when the day is done, you got to get home, make bread for everybody else, to eat. And then you got to put them to bed and do it all over again. And then we find these little pockets throughout our days to be able to do this until we can do it full time. And that's really, here, with this administration, it wouldn't shock me that here before long, we're all going to have to do it full time. The way things are rolling down right now. Man, we're coming up on an hour. So, hey, y'all, thank you so much. Before we get out of here, I want to have Jason and Shelli both tell you, hey, by the way, y'all, that pimp cast that we do is sponsored by a company out there called Hickory Ridge Soap. And if you listen to it, there you go. There's one hat, or there's the Hickory Ridge Soap Company right there on the screen. So why don't you tell everybody how they can support you, Shelli, and where they can find you if you want people to reach out to you, where they can go to find you.
So you can follow us on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is 20 Crows Homestead. And we do make soap. We have actually on our homestead, it's Hickory Ridge handmade treasures. My oldest daughter makes jewelry, and my next oldest daughter makes wax melts. Those are all on the website. You can find that at 20crowshomestead.com. And you can contact us through that. You can contact us through our YouTube channel. Come check us out.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, I'm using that soap every night. Michelle's got a whole cabinet of it stocked up there. So like William always says, it turned that mangy man into a sexy beast.
Right.
Which is that's one of the flavors. That's one of the smells she has there. Jason, how does everybody get a hold of you?
You can go on to YouTube, onto our channel there, or you can find us on Facebook at Kentucky Sustainable Living. I've got my email. You can email me from the YouTube channel. It's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. So, and Shelli's soap is the Sexy Beast is nice. She gave me some the other day. I was like, I just want to try the Sexy Beast. I was like, I heard William and Billy talking about it. And I got home that afternoon, took a shower, and I sent her a text. I was like, I'm going to have to board up the bathroom window because women were beating on the window while I was taking a shower. I smelled so good. She was like, I don't know about you now.
I'm telling you what, that soap is excellent. The packaging, everything about it, I could learn so much. I mean, but that's how you, for those out there that are thinking about, hey, how do I monetize my homestead? Well, this is exactly what I'm hoping happens, is that instead of going to a box store to go get my soap, I guarantee I ain't going there. If Jason was to came out with a really good toothpaste, I guarantee I'd be giving all my business to him. But I promise you, I don't have to think about where I'm going to get my soap. I get it from Shelli, and I think all of y'all should too. And all of us, think about it. Everybody in the sound of my voice right now, if we all had some little cottage business of our own, maybe it doesn't pay all the bills overnight. Not at first, but maybe you get there, Maybe we all had a piece of this thing. Maybe we all kind of find ways to do business with one another. Because frankly, in these times, we're going to have to. And it all starts with community. And to come full circle with this, it also means a lot that you go out there and get the training that you need, whether it's going to a festival that has training you want to do, or whether it's reading a book and putting it to work, or whether it's watching a YouTube video. Maybe you watch Shelli and Jason's YouTube video and you got questions about it. Maybe you want to reach out to them and say, hey, how do I do this? Because they did a ballin' fantastic job of teaching that class. Or what were your training resources? How can I replicate that here? And maybe that builds into something that you could monetize, because frankly, I think these days you probably could. whether it's going out there designing this for other people or putting it in for them. Maybe they need a food forest. Maybe they need an orchard. Whatever the case may be, that could all be done from a permaculture perspective. But hey, thank you all so much for checking it out. And for those that are going to be watching later, we'll link Jason and Shelli's YouTube channels down below. So thanks everybody for hanging out. I wish I could stay longer, but I got something else I got to do. So thanks a million, y'all.
See y'all later.